Okay, we just ended page 126. We're on to page 127. The river is so blue today, she said sleepily. It could almost be the water in the Carlisle Bay. Homesick? Asked Nat casually, his eyes on the blue strip of water. Not here, she answered. Not when I'm in the meadow, or with Hannah. He turned to look at her. How has it been, Kit? He asked seriously. I mean, really, are you sorry you came? She hesitated. Sometimes I am. They've been good to me, but it's very different here. I don't seem to fit in, Nat. You know, he said, looking carefully away at the river, once when I was a kid we were ashore at Jamaica, and in the marketplace there was a man with some birds for sale. They were sort of yellow-green, with bright scarlet patches. I was bent on taking one home to my grandmother in Saybrook, but father explained it wasn't meant to live up here, that the birds here would scold and peck at it. Funny thing, that morning when we left you were in Wethersfield all the way back to the ship, and all I could think of was that bird. Kit stared at him. That cocky young seaman, striding back through the woods without ever proper good-bye, thinking about a bird. Now, having spoken to seriously, he turned back her solemn regard with a laugh. Who would guess, he teased, that I'd ever see you perched on a rooftop with straw in your hair? Kit giggled. Are you saying I've turned into a crow? Not exactly. His eyes were intensely blue with merriment. I can still see the green feathers if I look hard enough, but they've done their best to make you into a sparrow, haven't they? It's these Puritans, Kit sighed. I'll never understand them. What do they want life to be so solemn? Why do they want life to be so solemn? I believe they actually enjoy it more that way. Nat stretched flat on his back on the thatch. If you ask me, it's all that schooling. It takes the fun out of life. Being cooped up like that all day after day, all the Latin they cram down your throat. Do you realize, Kit, there are 25 different kinds of nouns alone in accidents? I couldn't stomach it. Mind you, he went on, it's not that I don't favor an education. A boy has to learn his numbers, but the only proper use for them is to find your latitude with a cross-staff. Books, now, that's different. There is nothing like a book to keep you company on a long voyage. What sort of books? Kit asked in some surprise. Oh, most any sort. We pick them up in odd places. I like the old log books best, accounts of voyages, but once a man had left us with plays from England that were good reading. There was one about a shipwreck on an island in the Indies. Kit bounced up from the grass in excitement. You mean The Tempest? I can't remember. Have you read that one? It was our favorite. Kit hugged her knees in delight. Grandfather was sure Shakespeare must have visited Barbados. I suspect he liked to think of himself as Prospero. And you were the daughter, I suppose? Was that her name? Miranda, but I wasn't much like her. Nat laughed. That Shakespeare should have gone on with his story. He didn't tell what happened when the young prince took her back with him to England. I bet she gave the ladies plenty to talk about. It wasn't England, it was Naples. And that's another thing, Nat, she remembered. All this talk against England and the king. I don't understand it. No, I suppose you couldn't, not being brought up here. Why are they so disloyal to King James? There are two sides to loyalty, Kit, said Nat, looking suddenly almost as serious as John Holbrook on William. If the king respects our rights and keeps his word to us, then he will retain our loyalty. But if he revokes the laws he has made and tax and comes about till the ship is on her beam ends, then finally we will be forced to cut the hawser. But that is treason. What is treason, Kit? A man is loyal to the place he loves. For me, the Dolphin, there is my country. My father would give his life for the right to sail her when and where he pleases, and so would I. Anyway, 'twould be little good in a gale blowing to wait for orders from His Majesty in England. I suppose it's like that for these people in Wethersfield. How can a king on a throne in England know what is best for them? A man's first loyalty is to the soil he stands on. That would please Uncle Matthew, anyway, Kit thought, bewildered and a little dismayed. To glimpse under Nat's nonchalant face a flash of the same passion that made life in the Wood household so uncomfortable. Nat was a New Englander, too. Had she forgotten? She was almost relieved to hear Hannah's voice at the foot of the ladder. Has thee finished thatching yet? 'Tis high time. Bea had a bite of supper. Supper! Kit had not even noticed the slanting sun. Is it as late as that? Nat's hand on her wrist detained her as she scrambled toward the ladder. You will come often to see her, won't you? He reminded her. Of course. Kit hesitated. I worry about her sometimes, she whispered. She seems so smart and spry. And then the next morning